Will Indiana deliver the Big Ten a third straight national championship? Who's winning in the transfer portal, specifically out west? We're discussing that on today's Locked On Big Ten Squad.
You're talking ball with the Big Ten Squad, sponsored by Game Time. From USC to Ohio State, from Michigan to Oregon, from Nebraska to Washington, it's the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network bringing you scoops, breakdowns, and the most comprehensive preview of the upcoming Big Ten weekend. No hurt feelings and thin skin allowed. Squad up, you're part of the Big Ten Squad.
Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to this week's Locked On Big Ten Squad, a three-man panel of elite West Coast programs, if I've ever seen it. I'm Spencer McLaughlin, your host, Zach Anderson, Yoxheimer of Locked On UCLA, Mark Culkin of Locked On USC. That's it. That's the squad for the audio listeners. That's who we're rolling with this week. We'll talk all things national championship. Might dive into some interesting prop bet ideas, according to our friends at FanDuel, of course. So, Yoxheimer, I'll start with you. The big game on Monday, Indiana, Miami. I don't know if there was a single person in the country, including in Bloomington, that would have predicted this national championship matchup. Did you?
No. The only thing that I can parallel is I've always dreamed of UCLA being in Miami's shoes, a championship game in their home stadium, you know?
Yeah.
But it would in LA, it'd probably be priced out like it is now, like how crazy it is. But that's the only thing that I think gives Miami a chance. It's in their home stadium. I just wonder how much red are they going to see instead of orange and green?
Yeah. There's actually an interesting comparison for UCLA here, because the Bruins have been down for a little while, and envisioning them at the top of the conference, well, that's difficult to conceive. Mark is repulsed by the idea of UCLA being at the top of the conference. But Zach, wouldn't UCLA going 11-1 next year and then winning the Big Ten in 2027, that has an Indiana level of probability, right? Which is to say, it can't be zero.
I mean, you can compare both Indiana and Miami to UCLA right now. UCLA is taking the Indiana model of the James Madison coach, and UCLA's chancellor was Miami's former president, who kind of got the fundraising up and got Miami football a little bit back to where it is. Obviously, a lot more factors there. But UCLA, support from the top, former Miami president, James Madison model, like Indiana, UCLA's new coach, Bob Chesney. So they're stealing from both programs, and hopefully that just supercharges this rebuild of a program identity in less than 5 years, because it's got to take 1 to 2.
Mark, you heard it here first from Zach. UCLA national champions in 2027. How you feeling about that?
I've never heard that in my lifetime, so that's funny. Look, I think UCLA is trending in the right direction. I don't know, what is the actual question right now? Am I supposed to be giving props to Indiana, or am I supposed to be glossing over UCLA?
No, let's start with you dunking on UCLA. Lean into the rivalry for this three-man squad. Let's go.
Yes, this is an old school Pac-12 show. So
indeed it is.
Look, I think UCLA is definitely trending in the right direction. I like and I've talked to Zach about this. I like the coaching hire. I don't think the president hire makes a big difference, but I am starting to see them doing the right thing, as far as players they're bringing in through the transfer portal, assistant coaches that are being part of the staff. Huge fan of Coach So'oto. Make sure you pronounce that last name correctly, because he will correct you if you don't.
So'oto,
yes.
So'oto, boom.
Yeah, he actually
done.
He actually corrected one of USC's associate athletic directors to make sure, and it was done in public, and I thought it was hysterical. But yeah, I think UCLA has a chance to get to 7 wins next year. Look, they're just not meant to win a national championship, even when all the
Indiana wasn't. Here they are, and they were. UCLA's been much better than Indiana has been historically.
When all of the stars were aligned, and Bobo Toledo was your head coach, and you had that rocking offense and everything, you had to go to Miami, and we all know what happened there. Sometimes things just aren't meant to be. I would love for UCLA to be relevant again in Los Angeles, because when USC and UCLA are relevant, it will elevate the rest of the Big Ten Conference. And right now, as far as Indiana, I've seen plenty of championship football in my lifetime, especially at USC. that Indiana team looks every bit the part. I will not be surprised if they blow Miami out of the water.
I won't be either, and I've got some up close and personal experience with playing Indiana. Hasn't gone particularly well. You know, Mark, I think you and I actually have something in common right now. Whether it's
national
fun
expectations.
Well, that is kind of where I was going, like a little bit. You think about the brands of Oregon and USC, and you compare it to Indiana. Mark, isn't there a sense in Los Angeles, like I think there kind of is in Eugene, at least to an extent, where you're looking around and going, what the hell? How'd we get passed by the Hoosiers? You know, we've been at this for so long, doing so many things at a high level. Where the hell did Indiana come? Indiana? I mean, for goodness sake.
Look, I deal with so many USC fans that love to pick up the goalpost and move it as far around as they can to make themselves feel better about the direction USC's program is going. Well, Indiana, they brought in, half their team from James Madison. They're the oldest team in college football. They're all Brigham Young age players. There's always these excuses. Look, you just have to give credit where credit is due. Curt Cignetti came in, brought a philosophy, brought his 2-star players, these no-name guys that nobody else wanted, kept them together. They play disciplined football, and they do it really, really well. You cannot say, you know what, that's a problem with that program. Well, guess what? That program has taken the blue-collar approach, and now they're starting to get some of their billionaire guys involved, and they're going to be able to build upon that. So, yes, UCLA, yes, USC, yes, Phil Knight University, we need to get our ish together because we're getting passed up by the Indianas and the Texans.
Some of us were in the playoff semifinal at the very least.
Well, guess what? You're still second place.
I think technically it'd be a battle for third if they played Ole Miss. Get it right, Mark. Get it right.
This is what I'm talking about, moving the goalposts. First person to lose, you're still the first person to lose.
If you ain't first, you're last. So as far as I'm concerned, you're in the same spot as I am, partner.
Thank you, Zach.
I don't know that that's the case. One of us has won a Big Ten championship in football. The other one,
you ain't first, you're last. Hey, I've seen embarrassment in the Rose Bowl. Not as bad as Oregon, though, recently, last couple of years.
No. Oh, well, you're talking about the other Rose Bowl. I thought you were talking about this year. I was like, no, Alabama played in the Rose Bowl. And I was like, oh, yeah, right. That was another thing that happened. We're going to dive more into the game. Can Miami actually win? Look, I've seen crazier things happen before. First, this episode brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The college football playoff is here. FanDuel is giving all customers even more ways to get in on the action every single game day of the playoffs. And of course, there's only just the one left. We're about to talk about the big game even more. And right now, every college football playoff game day, including the national championship, FanDuel users get a profit boost waiting for them in the app. Here's what you love about it. You get to use the profit boost on the bets you already feel good about. You can ride with the favorite, Indiana. You can go with the underdog, Miami, and then you apply the profit boost and you go after even bigger winnings. And when you win, FanDuel, I just hit the table for no particular reason. I just can't not talk without my hands. Anyway, so FanDuel, though, pays out instantly, which is perfect for playoff football. Plus, they've got the NBA, they've got the NFL, they've got every college football. Futures bets are going to be on there. I can't wait. One of my favorite off-season content ideas is win totals. Win totals will roll around in the spring. Boy, FanDuel's going to have us cooking. FanDuel's the best place to get into the action all playoff long. Visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff profit boosts every single game day. And there's only one chance left, so make it happen. Check them out at FanDuel.com. All right, rolling along here with our three-man squad. Indiana and Miami. Zach, you have seen Indiana deliver a beat down to your team a time or two in the last couple of years. How do you think Miami does the opposite of that?
By destroying Miami? I think
okay, I'm gonna backtrack, walk it back, roll it, reel it back in. How does Miami not only not get blown out but win the game? Because I don't think you're blowing out Indiana.
Miami is in their home stadium. Whether they have most of the fans, other big name non-Indiana Miami fans in there, who knows? But Miami was supposed to be in this game in the preseason, right? They were expected to be good. They've been expected to be good the last couple of years between Cam Ward, Carson Beck, and they're a little bit better this year. The thing is, they just snuck in, rightfully so, I thought, to be in the playoff. And the big thing is they got to control possession, and I think they just have to outscore Indiana. I know that the Hoosiers are a little ground and pound. They can be physical. They can just dominate, put up 50 points, 38 points. Mendoza is the Heisman that doesn't have to be a superstar. That's how good Indiana is. So for Miami, they need Beck to play above his head in this game. He has to earn NFL scouts to salivate over him prior to the draft. Other than that, it just seems like you're punching up if you're Miami.
Mendoza, my favorite stat of the playoffs, more touchdowns than incompletions. Mark, what do you like? What the hell even is that?
It's a crazy stat. I mean, look, Zach, you touched on the biggest point here. Indiana does not make mistakes. They don't beat themselves. When they fumble it forward, and then an offensive lineman recovers it downfield. That's going to be the difference in the game. It really is. Miami, Carson Beck is a mistake waiting to happen. And it's just going to be a matter of time before Indiana pounces. Look, yes, the Hurricanes are playing at home. They're going to have the home field advantage. They're going to have a large crowd. When you're a good football team, and Miami's a good football team, but they need to play like Boise State did against, Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl that year. You need to pull out stuff. Otherwise, you don't have the discipline. You don't have the camaraderie, I think, that Indiana has. And I think that locker room is a huge, huge bonus compared to everybody else in the country.
Zach, do you remember on that Fiesta Bowl who the play-by-play announcer was?
Ooh, I'm trying to think.
It was the one Tom Brenneman.
Tom Brenneman, okay.
Who, on the 4th and 18, delivered one of my favorite calls of all time. And I'm sure in that moment, he thought it would be his most iconic broadcasting moment of all time. It wasn't, but
There's like 3 other plays after that were epic.
There were. Yeah, there's the hook. There's the pick six. Yeah, not at all. Mark got it. Mark picked up on it. And I'm sure some folks out there did as well. But there was the late interception by Boise, the 4th and 18 hook and ladder. There was the wildcat throw to the backup tight end in the corner of the end zone from a running back. And then there was the Statue of Liberty. Is that what it's going to take, in addition to Carson Beck playing well, for Miami to get this done?
I mean, I don't know if it's going to take 3 epic plays of all time. I mean, UCLA picked off Fernando Mendoza. I mean, let's be real, when they were the hottest team in the country.
Oregon had a true freshman get a pick 6 against them. That's where we're at with Indiana.
That was in Eugene. UCLA went to Bloomington to do it. That's before.
Way different. Way different.
But I mean, yes, Miami, they just have to avoid 4 Carson Beck interceptions. Didn't you have a game like that against Louisville earlier this year? They got to play up to their speed, up to their snuff, and just, as Mark said, they have to pull a couple of things out. I don't know if they need 5 hook and ladders, a Statue of Liberty, a reverse pass on 4th down. They don't need all those. They need one of those to work, and 1 Mendoza mistake. I think they need a Mendoza mistake, and then, which can happen, just very unlikely.
That is very, very unlikely.
Put the ball in Tony's hands, I guess, is what Miami has to try and do.
As often as possible.
Yeah, if you put him in open space, now you have a weapon that Indiana's going to go, oh, what do we do with that?
Yeah, Bryant Haynes has got his work cut out for him. I trust that guy implicitly right now. Yeah. By the way, none of the 3 of us ever, the wisest in the Big Ten squad, realized that I forgot to change the background earlier in this show, and I just changed it.
You talking about the Oregon, or you talking about the show rundown?
No, I'm talking about the show back. I'm talking about the show back. Look, I still had this background in there. I made one earlier and loaded it in and just forgot to click it over. So, the first part was still accurate, but Ohio State goes down. A little bit of dated information there. But Zach, you had an interesting idea. We went over to our friends at FanDuel and realized that there are some intriguing propositional bets. I don't know if that's the full name of prop bets there, but propositional bets for the national championship game. I tell you the one that first of all, Mendoza over 125 passing yards is minus 1450, which is epic. That is an epic. I don't even know who's taking that.
Fernando Mendoza has not thrown for more than 225 yards in the last 3 games. He hasn't even thrown for more than 225 yards in 7 of the last 8 games. And that's their Heisman winner.
I know.
So as me as a Raider fan, I'm taking close note of this.
I got 5
Very
on
close note.
I'm putting
Of
5
my franchise quarterback.
But Mark's putting 5 down to net. What is that? 70 cents? Like maybe. I tell you the one that's the most interesting. First touchdown scorer of the game, Elijah Surratt. The go-to guy for the Indiana Hoosiers. You've got Omar Cooper. You've got Becker at wide receiver. They can run the ball well. And by the way, Zach, to your point about the lack of relative yardage for Mendoza, it's because Indiana very quietly plays complementary football with defense
They just
and
kick
special
everybody's
teams.
butt. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it
They don't
is
have
in
to
all
pass
3
the ball.
phases. They just roll everybody. But who do you think will be the first touchdown scorer in the game? Either team.
Hot take, Mendoza rushing touchdown.
you. I was literally just going to say.
Oh, I kind of like that.
Yeah.
I kind of let's see. Hold on. There is, I believe, according to FanDuel, you can get that at plus 1,600.
I got 10 on it.
I tell you what.
Mendoza has 6 rushing touchdowns. He hasn't had one since Purdue.
Oh man, that would be the kind of thing Signetti would whip out in a big game like this. Second down and goal at the 3. Maybe speed option. I was thinking fake jet sweep, quarterback counter. Boy,
I think
if that one comes to fruition, that's going to be it.
And runs it right between the tackles, right up the gut.
That would be an all-time call from the two of you. Let's log our final predictions here before we talk about the portal, wrap today's show. Zach, Indiana, Miami, Hoosiers favored by 8.5 according to FanDuel. Who you got?
That feels like a big number in a road game in a championship game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
I still think UCLA. I think the UCLA Indiana.
I think UCLA is going to surprise everybody and show up and play in the game.
Bad memories in Miami, though. But I would say Indiana, it's going to get... This feels to me like 2019, that LSU-Clemson game, where Clemson gets out
I thought that was your
early.
score prediction for a second. I was like 20 to
And
19.
they get out early by like a couple of scores, and then how LSU pulled away late, that's how Indiana... They might have a couple nerves. It might look fun early, and then Indiana wins by 2 scores late. Let's go 34-21, Indiana.
Mark.
40-17, Indiana. In fact, I'll go this far. I think Miami scores first, takes the lead, gets that stadium rocking, all jacked up, and then all of a sudden Indiana just kind of settles in, plays Indiana football, and before you know it, the guys on the Miami bench saying, "Can we just start up the bus so we can leave?"
Yeah,
they don't have to go far.
Kind of like the national championship game last year. Notre Dame scored first. They had that great drive. They just 3-4 yards in a cloud of dust. They're in the end zone, and then you looked up and it was like 31-7. You went, "Oh, well, that's better team." Yeah, I'm going Indiana here. The over under is set at 47.5. I like that Indiana defense a lot. I'm gonna roll kind of with what Mark is looking at. I'm going 34-13. I think that could be a yeah. I think that could I think it'd be Indiana big time. When we get back, we're gonna do a little portal buzzing. What is the latest? Dante Moore's back, and Oregon's obviously winning it all next year. I heard you chuckle, Mark. I heard you chuckle.
People snort so bad. I just gave
you dare doubt that an off-season natty will ever translate to a real natty. What data have you to support that when
Let me
talking
say something about
Oregon?
Dante Moore, Spencer. I was a guest on another show. And
did you want to talk about Dante Moore? It's going great.
I don't know. We're a guest on another podcast, and they asked me, "What are you going to talk about what's going to be the difference between Indiana and Oregon? And I was like, well, from his UCLA days, Dante Moore has to make a mistake. And literally 20 minutes later, he threw a pick six because I was on a live stream. I was like, oh, and then there's the fumble. I was like, oh, how did I know?
Yeah.
Dante Moore has
old
still to grow.
Dante came, but that's okay. That was the old Dante. We're going to get the new Dante, who, by the way, old Dante was a pretty darn good football player. New Dante is going to be an even better football player.
Dylan Raiola is going to help level him up. Is that the thing?
What was that?
Because Dylan Raiola is going to push him.
Oh, yeah. Big time. Huge quarterback battle in Eugene. Get ready for the clickbaitiest headline of all time on Locked On Ducks. Quarterback battle. Dylan Raiola will push. He's doing no such thing. Dante Moore starting. So, anyway, Oregon might go after Jordan Seaton, Colorado offensive tackle. I think they've had about 47 defensive linemen enter the portal that are going to, at least in some capacity, make your way down to your guys' state in California with Tosh Lupoi, but up north in Berkeley. So they need some work there. But overall, it's been eventful. Oregon's got a bunch of key returners. It's been pretty good. Zach, how's the transfer portal been for the Bruins?
UCLA 1-40, looking like the Indiana model, taking the James Madison guys, able to get Zahir West, which was a big Bruin fan favorite to land in the portal, to significantly upgrade a D-line that was last in sacks, last in tackles for loss in the FBS. So the Bruins do have some edge rushers.
FBS?
Yeah.
Oh goodness! I thought you were going to say the Big Ten, and I was ready for.
I
was ready. I was ready to make a wisecrack about and there's 18 teams in this conference. UCLA went last at 136.
No, there's a reason UCLA couldn't do anything on defense. It's because there's no pressure and quarterbacks had all day to throw. They could run the ball. Nothing worked because they could run right up the middle, like Utah, like Nebraska. That was the tried and true formula. You didn't have to do much.
Penn State vehemently disagrees. They would tell you that defense had some players on it. Underrated, gritty guys.
Well, I mean, Drew Aller kind of a little different there. You have to remember, UCLA scored first and the onside kick. They're running from ahead in the beginning of that one. So UCLA's 40 transfers, addressed the secondary. Every position in need, UCLA got a guy who's proven, a James Madison guy that knows the system, a guy who didn't play, and a guy who had some production on a playoff caliber team, whether it was in Oklahoma like Sammy Omosigo, or just offensively, they got guys like Florida's Aiden Mizell with some speed. They addressed every little position with a sense of savvy. So it's not like they're just throwing dust in the wind. Oh, let's see what happens. They're actually going after something targeted, and I think they'll get a lot better returns this year in the portal than they did in years past.
Mark, how's the portal been for USC?
USC spent all their money on their high school recruiting class, so they kind of did a little bit of the blue light specials at Kmart. They found some nice pieces. Don't get me wrong, but I think, myself included, a lot of USC fans were kind of hoping, anticipating that USC was just going to continue to go all in the transfer portal, find those key pieces, the best players available, spend the money necessary to fill a hole at linebacker or two, fill a hole at maybe defensive line. It didn't go that way. So instead, you filled a hole. You found a really good complementary wide receiver in Terrell Anderson from North Carolina State. Would I have preferred a Cam Coleman or a Nick Marsh? Probably, but I'm not upset with Terrell Anderson. They went and got a run-stopping interior defensive lineman, Alex Van Sumeren from Michigan State. I think he is a better version of what USC had a couple of years ago in Gavin Meyer when they pulled him from Wisconsin. They brought Devin Bryant in, a linebacker from the University of Washington. Again, not a top-tier guy, but somebody who knows how to play against the run. He's a local product. So USC did what they had to do, not what they probably should have done. They did just enough to get by. So if you're looking to pass a test, look, Mom, I brought home a C+ on my quiz. Everybody was probably looking for that A grade. But they're going with the youth movement. They are going with the youth movement in 2026. They're returning their entire offensive line, which is a plus. They're returning Jaden Mayava at quarterback. Some see that as a positive. You're returning Waymon Jordan at running back, Chanuk Hines at wide receiver. Defensive line, young but really, really good. Hopefully the defensive coordinator can bring it all together. So to answer your question, USC did just enough in the transfer portal to say we did what we needed to do.
I was ready to pump my fist for C's get degrees. C's get degrees. C's get degrees. Maybe not at UCLA because, you know, they have really, really high standards down there. By the way, Zach, I don't know if you know this. UCLA was the only school that I applied to for college that outright denied me.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that said, I hope as a result your football program lives in misery for the next 30 years. Anyway, Zach Anderson, Yoxheimer, Locked On UCLA, Mark Colkin, Locked On USC. I'm Spencer McLaughlin from Locked On all over the place. That has been your three-man Big Ten squad. We'll see you next time. And until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.